The sun hadn't yet climbed over the mesas when Elijah Boone saddled his horse. The sky above Coyote Ridge was painted in ash and gold, a quiet promise before another hard day. Wind brushed through the dry grass, whispering against the fences and the bones of the land. Everything in that part of Texas had a voice, except Elijah. He'd long forgotten how to talk to anyone. 7 years of silence will do that to a man. His wife, Evelyn, had died in a fire, or at least, that's what everyone said. The fire that took the east barn also took his faith, his laughter, and his will to look another soul in the eye. After that night, Elijah stopped going into town except for supplies. He buried himself in work, the cattle, the fences, the endless fixing of things that didn't need fixing, because it was easier than remembering the smell of her hair, or the way she'd hum while cooking beans over the fire. That morning, though, something broke the routine. A folded newspaper lay on his porch. He didn't know who had left it. Maybe the store boy from town, maybe fate itself. Its edges fluttered in the wind, and his eyes fell on an ad in the corner. Mail-order bride service, Denver Gazette. Lonely men and women of good faith seeking marriage and companionship. Honest intentions only. Elijah's thumb hovered over the words for a long time. He laughed bitterly under his breath, a hollow, rusty sound that startled even him. Companionship, he muttered. Ain't that a cruel word? Still that night, he found himself sitting at his oak table, pen trembling in his calloused hand. The lamp's flame flickered as if the air itself hesitated to breathe. He began to write. Wanted, God-fearing woman of steady heart and gentle hand, seeking marriage and partnership upon Coyote Ridge Ranch. A simple life, far from the noise of the world. Elijah Boone. He paused. His hand lingered over the signature as a pang went through his chest, the kind that only ghosts can cause. Forgive me, Eve, he whispered, but I can't talk to the walls forever. He sealed the envelope, stamped it with wax, and mailed it the next morning. Days passed, then weeks. The wind turned warmer. Spring began to whisper through the canyon. Elijah nearly forgot about the ad, convincing himself that no one in their right mind would answer a lonely rancher's plea from the middle of nowhere. But fate had other plans. Horse a visitor at Coyote Ridge. One dusty evening, as the sun bled red over the horizon, the sound of hooves echoed down the trail. Elijah stepped out onto his porch, squinting against the glare. A stagecoach came rattling down the dirt road, tired horses, clinking harness, and a driver shouting curses at the wind. Behind it sat a single passenger, a woman dressed in a gray traveling gown and bonnet. When the stage finally stopped before the ranch, the driver tipped his hat. Mail-order delivery, Mr. Boone, he hollered with a grin. Straight from Denver. Elijah froze. His mouth went dry. He hadn't expected an answer, and certainly not an arrival. The door of the stagecoach opened with a slow, squeaking creak. A woman stepped down, boots touching the dust like she'd done it before, graceful, steady, familiar. For a moment, the wind stilled. The world seemed to hold its breath. Her face lifted beneath the bonnet, and Elijah's knees nearly gave out. Evelyn, he whispered, his voice breaking. No, that ain't possible. The woman looked at him, eyes the color of storm clouds, trembling hands clutching a small suitcase. Her lips parted, trembling between a smile and tears. Hello, Elijah, she said softly. I answered your ad. Cloud with lightning, the shock. Elijah stumbled back a step, his boots scraping the porch boards. He stared as if the earth itself had betrayed him. You died. I buried you. The fire I saw. You saw smoke, Elijah, she interrupted gently, but you didn't see the truth. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. His heart was a storm caught in a chest that had forgotten how to feel. Evelyn stepped closer, her gaze full of tears. I never wanted to leave, but I had to. They told me you were gone, that the fire had taken you, and by the time I learned the truth, I was too far to come back. Elijah's jaw tightened. 7 years, Eve. 7 damn years. And now you show up answering a stranger's ad. I didn't know it was you, she said, her voice trembling. Not until I saw your name in that paper. I didn't even believe it. Not until I saw the handwriting in your letter. I had to come. Silence hung heavy. Only the windmill creaked behind them, spinning slowly against the bleeding sky. Elijah looked away, his throat dry. You shouldn't have come. But she didn't move. She just looked at him. The man she once loved. The man she'd buried in her heart. I couldn't stay away, she whispered. Not this time. Crescent moon nightfall at the ranch. That night, the house that had been silent for years breathed again. Evelyn sat by the old hearth, her hands folded in her lap. Elijah poured coffee, black as midnight, and handed it to her without a word. The air was thick with memories, laughter once shared, promises once broken, and all the things they'd both lost. You still keep the porch light burning, she said, eyes glistening. Never could bring myself to turn it off, he muttered. For a long time, neither spoke. The fire crackled, throwing shadows across the worn floorboards. Finally, Elijah leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Tell me the truth, Eve. How'd you survive? She sighed. After the fire, I was taken in by a family near Fort Mason. I was half dead, Elijah. When I woke, they said you were gone, that the ranch had burned and no one survived. For years I believed it. Then I saw that newspaper ad in a Denver shop, and your name. I knew I had to see you with my own eyes. Elijah's hands trembled around his cup. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to hate her. But mostly, he just wanted to hold her again, to make sure she was real. 7 years, Eve, he said again, voice rough. 7 years of ghosts. She looked up at him, eyes wet, voice breaking. Then let me be the one to haunt you no more. As the night deepened, thunder rolled in the distance, soft, like a memory returning home. Elijah stood and walked to the window. The moonlight fell across Evelyn's face, and for the first time in years, he felt something inside him shift. Hope, fear, love. Everything he'd buried beneath the dust of Coyote Ridge was stirring again. You can stay the night, he said quietly. There's a spare room. But come morning, we'll talk about what comes next. She nodded. Thank you, Elijah. He turned away, staring out at the horizon. But even as he tried to fight it, a single tear rolled down his cheek. You shouldn't have come back, he whispered, because I don't know if I can lose you twice. And outside, the wind howled, like it had been waiting 7 long years to cry for them both. The night was long, and neither of them slept. Elijah lay awake in his room, listening to the old house breathe again. For 7 years, the wind had been his only companion, whispering through cracks, creaking doors, and echoing in emptiness. Now, from across the hall, he could hear the faint sound of movement, a woman's soft footsteps, the rustle of fabric, and once, a quiet sigh that tore through him like a bullet. He turned toward the window. The moon was hanging low, half hidden behind drifting clouds, and in its pale light, the ranch looked almost alive again, as if it knew something had returned that had been missing too long. Candle morning on Coyote Ridge. At dawn, Elijah stepped outside. The air was crisp, the sky gold and silver. He saddled the mare, fed the hens, checked the fences, all the things he'd done every morning for 7 years. Only this time, there was coffee waiting when he came back. Evelyn stood by the stove, sleeves rolled up, her hair pinned back like she used to. The smell of biscuits and bacon filled the air, something so ordinary, yet so powerful that it almost brought Elijah to his knees. She turned, smiled softly. I remembered you liked your eggs runny, she said. He didn't answer, just stared at her like she was a ghost trying to pretend she was human again. Finally, he said, You didn't have to. I wanted to, she replied. It feels right to cook here again. Elijah sat down slowly. The silence between them was heavy but alive. Every glance, every small sound carried memories of a life interrupted. After breakfast, he stood by the doorway and finally asked what had been clawing at him since she returned. Why didn't you write? Evelyn turned, eyes full of pain. I did. Twice. I sent letters to the ranch, but they came back marked deceased. I thought you were gone, Elijah. You have to believe me. He stared out at the horizon, jaw tight. I wanted to believe you were alive, but when the barn burned and they said you were inside... He stopped. The words were too heavy to finish. She came closer. You mourned me. I mourned you. We both buried ghosts that weren't dead. Cloud with rain, old wounds. That afternoon, a storm rolled in from the west, thick clouds, the smell of rain, the taste of change. Elijah worked in the barn, fixing a broken gate just to keep his hands busy. He didn't hear her come in until her voice cut through the thunder. Elijah. He turned. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her dress dusted with rain. For a moment, they just looked at each other, the years between them stretching like miles of empty road. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. Something I should have told you years ago. He set his hammer down slowly. Go on. After the fire, when I woke up at Fort Mason, I wasn't alone. Her voice trembled. There was a child, a baby girl. Our baby Elijah. The hammer slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. He stared at her. The air knocked from his lungs. What did you just say? Tears filled her eyes. She was born 2 months after the fire. I didn't even know I was with child until then. I named her Grace. She's 6 now. She's at the mission school in Denver. Elijah's chest rose and felt like he'd been struck. You mean all this time? I had a daughter I never knew about. I tried to protect her, Evelyn whispered. I had nothing. I thought you were dead. I didn't want her to grow up with the same pain I carried. Elijah turned away, pressing a hand to his forehead. The sound of rain against the barn roof filled the silence between them. You kept her from me, he said finally, his voice breaking. You kept my child from me. I kept her safe, Evelyn replied, her own tears falling. And I came back because I couldn't keep lying to her, or to you. High voltage, the storm breaks. Lightning flashed outside. The wind howled through the cracks. Elijah walked past her, out into the rain, his hat dripping, boots sinking in the mud. Evelyn followed, shouting over the thunder. You think I wanted this? She cried. You think I didn't dream of this ranch every night, for 7 years? He spun on her, eyes burning. Then why didn't you come home sooner? Why wait till I put a damn ad in the paper? Because I was scared, she shouted. Scared you'd moved on. Scared you'd hate me. Scared the man I loved wasn't the same anymore. The storm raged around them, rain pounding, wind tearing through the trees. But in the middle of it, 2 broken souls finally faced each other. Elijah took a step forward, his voice raw. You should have known. I never stopped loving you, Eve. Not one damn day. She covered her mouth, sobbing, and I never stopped waiting. For a moment, neither moved. Then Elijah closed the distance, pulled her close, and kissed her, desperate, trembling, soaked in rain and regret. The world around them roared, but inside that storm, they found silence, the kind that only love and forgiveness can bring. Sunrise the morning after. The next morning, the world was washed clean. The sky was bright. The earth smelled of wet sage and second chances. Evelyn sat on the porch, holding a photograph, a little girl with braids and the same gray eyes. Elijah stood beside her, quiet for a long time. She's beautiful, he said softly. She looks like you. Evelyn smiled. Elijah turned to her. Bring her home. This ranch is hers as much as it's ours. She looked up, tears glimmering in her lashes. You mean it? He nodded. I buried enough ghosts here. It's time this land had laughter again. Evelyn stood, and for the first time since she returned, she took his hand without fear. The warmth of it, the strength, it felt like coming home after a long, long winter. You always said the land remembers, she whispered. Maybe hearts do too. He smiled faintly. Maybe so. Sunflower 6 weeks later. The stagecoach rolled up the same dirt road again. Only this time, there was no tension, no ghosts. A little girl jumped down, holding a locket in her hand. Her eyes lit up when she saw Elijah. "Mama said you're my papa," she said shyly. "Is that true?" Elijah knelt down, voice trembling. "That's true, sweetheart." She smiled, small and bright like sunrise. "Can I call you Daddy?" He swallowed hard, tears in his eyes. "You already do." Evelyn stood behind her, watching, her heart full, her eyes shining with peace she hadn't felt in years. The girl ran to the porch, chasing a butterfly. Elijah took Evelyn's hand again and looked out across the fields. The grass swayed golden in the evening light. The fences stood mended, the windmill turning slow and steady. For the first time in 7 years, the ranch didn't feel empty. "Guess the good Lord had his plans all along," Elijah said quietly. "He did," Evelyn smiled. "We just took the long road to find them." He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Then let's not waste any more time." Dove Epilogue, the light in the window. That night, as the stars spread over Coyote Ridge, a single warm light burned in the window, the same one Elijah had kept lit all those lonely years. Only this time, it wasn't for ghosts. It was for home, for love returned, for a family reborn under the endless western sky. And when the wind passed over the hills, it didn't sound lonely anymore. It sounded like laughter.